Let's summarize. Let's summarize what you've learned about erosion and deposition. Have you ever watched a river flow? You may have seen sediments and small rocks being carried along in the flowing water. These sediments and small rocks are weathered rock. The transport of weathered rock is called erosion. Weathering and erosion work together to change and shape the land. Flowing water is the biggest cause of erosion. Rainwater carries sediments into streams and rivers. The moving water then flows downhill and carries the sediments along. Eventually, the sediments are dropped off in a new place. Waves also cause erosion. First, waves break rocks apart. The waves then carry the rocks and sand to a new place. Wind picks up very small pieces of rock, sand, and soil and carries them to other places. This is erosion by wind. At the same time, wind weathers the rock by abrasion. The dropping off of weathered rock is called deposition. Rivers and streams deposit sediments along their banks. Many of the finer sediments reach the mouths or ends of rivers. There they are deposited in huge amounts. Winds, too, can pick up sand and soil and deposit them many miles away. Some soils and rocks erode faster than others. For example, sandy soil is blown or washed away more easily than hard-packed clay. The size of sediments also affects erosion. Pieces of sand, for example, can be blown or washed away more easily than pebbles. The strength of wind and water also affects the rate of erosion. Floods, heavy rains, and strong winds cause erosion to occur quickly. Plants also affect how quickly soil erodes. During the 1920s, farmers in some states farmed many acres of land. At first, harvests were plentiful. After only a few years, the soil became overused. Then, in 1930, a drought began. There was little rain for nearly 10 years. Crops would not grow. The soil became bare and was exposed to strong winds. Without plants to hold the soil in place, the dry soil began to blow away. Terrible dust storms took place. This event became known as the Dust Bowl. The results of the Dust Bowl were devastating. Many animals died because there were no plants for them to eat. Thousands of farmers had to leave their homes. The Dust Bowl taught people that it was important to conserve soil. Conserving soil means using methods to save it and slow erosion. Today, farmers use methods to slow erosion. They plant trees between fields to slow wind erosion. The tree's roots help to keep the soil in place. Farmers also plant crops in strips. One strip has plants to hold the soil. The next strip is planted with a food crop. Then the next year the strips are changed. This method of farming is called strip farming. Another method, contour plowing, is used on land that slopes. Farmers plow their fields across a slope rather than up and down. The shape of the plowed land prevents soil from eroding. Erosion and deposition happen when sediments move from one place on Earth's surface to another. Erosion is affected by soil type, sediment size, and wind and water strength. There are methods farmers can use to conserve soil. How do weathering, erosion, and deposition work together? Rocks are weathered down into little pieces, which are carried away by erosion and deposited in a new place. Is the following statement true or false? Erosion. What caused the Dust Bowl? Farmers cleared the land to use for planting their crops. Plants like grass and trees were removed. Farmers used the same land every year for their crops. The soil became overused. A drought began and no rain fell for nearly 10 years. Crops did not grow and the soil dried up. There were no plants to hold the soil in place. The dry soil blew away and caused terrible dust storms. What might erode the banks of a river faster, a flood or a drought? Floodwaters are very strong and fast and carry rocks with them that could easily weather and erode the bank. A drought could dry up the soil of the banks and the wind could blow it away, but this would take much longer. Suppose you were a farmer. Describe the steps you would take